France 24's Doug Herbert's with me on the set to talk a bit more about this. And Doug, France and the UK have recorded some of the highest numbers we've seen, alarmingly high death tolls. Why have they fared so poorly in regard to the rest of Europe?
It's true. Both governments, to varying degrees, have been blamed for incoherence sometimes in their strategy, very fast-changing strategies. You could say it's easy to blame people when this is an evolving virus. There's so much unknown about it. How could you possibly, as a political leader, get this right the first time around? Because we're learning something new every day. But the fact of the matter is, let's take France as an example. Back in March, just before on the eve of lockdown, Emmanuel Macron gave a now sort of famous or infamous speech, as you may have it, talking about we're at war. He mentioned it 16 times. We are at war, using that very sort of belligerent, bellicose rhetoric to sort of try to mobilize, get the French aware, jolt them into an awareness about the threat of this and what you'll need to do, the sacrifices to beat it back down. Since then, the rhetoric has changed quite a bit. Emmanuel Macron has been not just reluctant, he has resisted more lockdowns. France came out of lockdown in the summer, as you know. There was a sort of sense of complacency, relaxation. Some people would say a free-for-all. People started traveling again. People came into France, went out of France. And you could say now people are paying the price for that. But like I said, Macron has been extremely reluctant to go back into more lockdowns. The slogan has been essentially living with the virus. But now they're coming to terms with the fact, what does that actually mean, living with the virus? Because in recent days and weeks, we've seen big cities such as Marseille have all their restaurants closed for several days. They've reopened since. Now Paris has its bars locked down, restaurants still open, but under much tighter restrictions. Living with the virus, the definition of it is evolving by the day. Meanwhile, you have deaths rising. You have hospitalizations rising. You have cases rising. Over the weekend, France had 17,000 recorded new daily infections. 17,000. In and around the Paris greater region, about 3,500 in one day. And the infection rate is going up as well. So among the young people who are often asymptomatic, 500 out of 100,000 are showing signs of being positive for this virus, which shows just how hard this is going to be, because people don't have to be coughing, sniffling, feverish in order to have this virus. They could be spreading it anywhere they are. And there are signs that it's spreading back from just young people, asymptomatic, back into an older population. France is very much up against it. UK also. Hospitalizations rising there as well, alarmingly. And it has the highest death rate from this virus in Europe.
So what about the rest of Europe then? Can we say it's moving across the bloc? Are we in the midst of this infamous second wave?
No, there's a very sharp, yes, we're in the midst of a second wave. That is clear, the dreaded second wave. What is less clear is how political leaders are going to adjust strategies, if at all. Because what the World Health Organization has essentially said is Europeans right now, just at the very moment where we're about to have colder weather, which will force people indoors, which will presumably also expose them to just the type of conditions which are rife for catching COVID. Just at that very moment, you also have what's called pandemic fatigue. That is a lot of people feeling we've already done our sacrifice. We've already been in our lockdowns. We are sick of these restrictions. We just want to get on with it. We want to live our lives. Plus, you have very fierce business lobbies. People saying you cannot shut down the entire economy. We cannot do it. We have to find somehow a just balance between health concerns and the economy. And that's where Europe's at right now. It is an extremely difficult equation. We've seen backlashes, protests in the streets in Spain, in Madrid, clashes between regional governments and the national authorities. We've seen similar things in France between Paris and Marseille and the government centralized. Very, very difficult. But they say pandemic fatigue cannot be an excuse for not fighting the virus. And it's going to have to be an across-the-board, full population type of battle.
Doug, thanks for that. France 24's Doug Herbert.